Hey guys, Telegram Sam here. If you don't already know, I have an Instagram. It's telegram_Sam_vinyl. So if you're on Instagram, check me out on there. Before we get started with today's recent vinyl pickups video, I just want to say thank you to for the overwhelming response on my last video. 5 artists that I didn't initially like, but now like, or whatever the hell I named it. It's currently sitting at like 14,000 views, which to me is just so crazy. I don't know why it's doing so well, but hell, I'll take it. I mean, any video I put up that gets 1 view, I consider a success, but the fact that 14,000 people have seen that video is just beyond the scope of what I thought any of my videos would do. So thank you to everyone for your just support in general, and the constant positive things I get about my channel, and it's just very overwhelming. And it's something I never expected when I started doing this about 1.5 years ago. I was just like, okay, maybe if I get a couple hundred subscribers, that'll be awesome. I never thought it would be at the scope that currently is at, and I'm just very thankful, and yeah, I cannot thank you enough. But yeah, let's get into the recent vinyl pickups. As always, we'll start off with the 7 inches. So my local record store, Lil Axe Records, great record store here in Portland, they recently got a pre-stellar punk hardcore collection. Of course, I didn't end up finding out about it until like a couple days after they got it. So a lot of the stuff that they got was kind of like picked over, so I kind of got the scraps of what they had. But most of the stuff I got there was punk. So I'm sorry if you're not that big of a punk fan. There'll be not so much punk in the later part of the video. But first off, 7 inches. We got Catch 23 backed with Hellhole by Charged GPH. This is an original 1983 UK press, punk, rock, hardcore. They would later end up dropping the Charge part of their name and ended up going by GBH for most of the career, but back in the day they were called Charge GBH. But yeah, this was one of the early singles they did on Clay Records. Just early pioneers of the British street punk scene, famously known as the UK 82 scene of like hardcore punk bands that really sort of revolutionized the harder punk sound. Would influence a lot of metal bands like Metallica, Pantera, so on and so forth, Guns N' Roses. But yeah, love them, been wanting to get some of their stuff, especially their singles, and it's really cool to find an original UK press of one of their singles. Another great British band, this is I'm Alive, backed with Quite Disappointing by 999. Again, an original 1977 UK press, punk rock. I would say they're a little bit more on the early new wavier side of punk rock. But this was their debut single on the band's own label, on the Libertine label, I believe that's how you say it. Really killer. But again, just super cool to find an original UK press of, again, another really awesome, influential British punk rock band. Taking a break from the punk for a little bit, this was a really cool find. This is a Feelings 45s collection by Jay Richford and Gary Stephen. This is a 2019 UK press. I've described this as like jazz, funk, soul, psych. It's 4 tracks taken from the 1974 album Feelings. Yeah, it's a very influential and heavily sampled album in hip-hop. Original OG Italian pressings of this full album go for upwards of $5,000. So I will gladly take any sort of form or reissue of this. I believe they did a reissue of it last year, but Isaac from Blind Island introduced me to this album, and I really, really dig it. But it came on two 45s on the original Carosello Italian label, just on black vinyl. But yeah, super, super killer album. You can probably stream it. I know I listened to the whole album on YouTube, but just very, very funky, very, very awesome. And plus that cover is really dope. And next for some local stuff, this is Puget Power 3. This is a comp of some great sort of grunge punk alternative bands. So you have this first side, which is the Seattle side that has Mudhoney doing Bush Pusher Man, which I believe is from Every Good Boy Deserves Fudge, and Night Kings doing Black Fluid. Of course I got this because I love Mudhoney, so I had to get it. And plus I'm a Washington State transplant living in Portland. And the second side has a Portland side that has Calamity Jane doing Shark and Rancid Vat doing Breaking Bones. And I've heard a lot about Calamity Jane. They're kind of like a local well-known band here, and I was excited to finally have something from them on it. But yeah, I was super stoked to find this. Now I need to find 2 in 1. But yeah, love Mudhoney, and I haven't heard of Night Kings, but I really like the song they do on here. And I haven't heard of Rancid Vat either, so yeah, I really like their song Breaking Bones that's on here, so I'll have to dig into them. But yeah, those were all the 45s I got. Speaking of Mudhoney, I've been wanting any sort of version of this for a very long time. This is a Super Fuzz Big Muff. This was their debut EP. This originally came out in 1988, and this is a 2009 US press. Alt rock, garage, probably one of the most important releases for the whole grunge movement. I mean, you know, Green River, which was the band Mark Arm, the singer and guitar player from Mudhoney, was in before breaking off and forming Mudhoney. Green River was very influential, but I think once Mudhoney hit and they really put all their power into it, it really formed what would come to be the Seattle grunge sound. And man, it would just be hard for me to imagine what that sound would be like without this EP. It's just so killer. And the other single they released the same year as this, their song Touch Me, I'm Sick. Oh my god, one of the greatest songs of all time. I love that song. But yeah, just if you don't have this or have anything by Mudhoney, just get your life right. Get this, sample it. You can find these for super cheap. They've done so many reissues of these as of late, and yeah, just cannot recommend enough. And this particular version came on this black and gray sort of marbled color variant. Next up, we got Live at Max's Kansas City by the Heartbreakers. This is an original 1979 US press. Great rock and roll, punk. This was Johnny Thunder's solo band that he created after he left the New York Dolls. This was sort of like a reunion farewell live show that they did after they broke up in 1977. Johnny Thunders went over to London for a bit to kind of get away from the whole New York scene and his association with the Dolls, and it kind of really helped form the burgeoning punk scene in London. He was really great friends with Malcolm McLaren, who was famously the sort of curator of the Sex Pistols and their manager. It's hard to imagine what would have come of that scene if Johnny Thunders never went over to New York. So this was after he came back and was like, okay, I guess we can do some shows. And yeah, I really love this. I have a few other Johnny Thunders, Heartbreakers live albums, but to me this one of the bands sounds so great. This was kind of before they kind of really got into drugs. They're still obviously on drugs, but before it went a little crazy and their sound got really sloppy, and plus the sound quality of this recording is really great as one could get from this era. It's just really awesome, and yeah, I just love anything Johnny Thunder / New York Dolls / Heartbreakers related, so of course I had to get this. And this one just came on black vinyl, black label, on the Max's Kansas City label. Next up, a punk grail for me. I would love to find an original copy of this, but I'll gladly take this later reissue. This is Back from Samoa by the Angry Samoans. I can't believe I have this. This originally came out in 1982, and this is a 1989 U.S. press. Great punk rock, hardcore. I don't think I've ever seen any version of this out in the wild, so I had to snag this. This was their debut album. They do a really awesome cover of the Chambers Brothers' Time Has Come Today. It's kind of like a funny, hokey sort of style punk rock, but it's just so awesome. If you're a fan of punk, this is kind of like one of those albums that you just like need to have. I was very hesitant to get this because the record is not in the greatest condition, but surprisingly it plays really nicely. I gave it a good cleaning. There's some noisy spots, but besides that, it plays through. I thought it was going to be like a skip hellhole, but it plays. I would love to find an OG original nice mint copy, but I will take this for now, and it's on Triple X Records. Next up, we have Rock and Roll Animal by Lou Reed. This originally came out in 1974, and this is a 1977 U.S. press. Great, art rock, glam from Lou. This was a live album recorded in New York in 1973, and half of the recording from that show would be on this album, and then the second half would be on his sort of follow-up live album just called Lou Reed Live. But I really love this. I love the version of Heroin he does on here, also the sort of intro, beginning of Sweet Jane. It's just really awesome mix of both his solo stuff and his Velvet Underground stuff. He does White Light, White Heat. Awesome. I love this era of Lou Reed. This is when he was really at his peak. And this one just came on a black RCA Victor label. And next up, this is kind of just like a blind buy. I've never heard of this group, but I just really liked the cover and decided to take a chance on it. And plus, I think it was like $5. This is God Damage EP by Coliseum. This is the original 2005 U.S. press. I've described as like punk rock, hardcore. Couldn't find a lot of information about this band. It looks like they were active between 2003 and their last release was 2015. So I'm assuming they probably disbanded or just haven't released anything since then. It's alright. I don't think it's groundbreaking or life-changing. It's just good, solid punk rock, hardcore. Nothing too crazy or exciting on this. But hey, if you're an avid fan of those genres and want to kind of dive deeper into some of the little lesser known bands, I think this is a great place to start. And this one just came on a custom label. And then next up, a very divisive figure. Either you love him or you hate him in punk rock. This is You Give Love a Bad Name by G.G. Allen and the Holy Men. This is an original 1987 U.S. press, punk rock, hardcore. For those of you who aren't familiar with G.G. Allen, he was a very famous sort of provocateur in punk rock, if you will. He's kind of one of those people that's more known for his crazy antics than really for his music. He would famously take laxatives before shows and poop in his hand and throw it at the crowd, would start fights with people, would break glass and cut up his body, and he would go on all these talk shows like Donahue and kind of stir shit up, and it was kind of one of those people that was any good press, even bad press is press. So G.G. Allen. I'm not one of those people that thinks he was great and should be seen as this godfather and holy man of punk. I'm kind of in between. I don't hate him, but I don't love him. But I respect that he sort of dedicated his life to living the character of G.G. Allen, if you will. Anyways, I actually really like the music, most of the music that is on here. I mean, if you have any sort of morals or sensitivities to anything, this is not your music. Most of the songs on here I can't even say because my video would probably get taken down. But the song Beer Picnic is actually really killer. I believe he did a recording of that on one of his earlier albums, but this is sort of like a re-recording of it, doing a very slow sort of doom metal sort of thing on it. I really dig it. And he also does a cover of one of Charles Manson's songs called Garbage Dump, which was on his infamous Lie album that the family did after he was arrested and trying to get publicity about how Charles Manson was wrongfully accused. Anyways, but he does a really funny cover of that song. But yeah, I don't know, Gigi Allen. I actually really do like some of his earlier work. This was kind of like right before he started to kind of go down in quality and got really into drugs and was sort of kind of just on this road of self-destruction. But yeah, I just think he's a funny person, and I just don't take him that seriously. And this one just came on Homestead Records, the red label. And of course, probably when you think of punk and hardcore music, this is probably the album you think of the most. Van Morrison's Tubular Honey. This is an original 1971 U.S. press. This is kind of rock, folk, country, a little stripped back Van Morrison, if you will. This was when he was living in Woodstock, and I think he ended up moving to Marin County, California towards the end of the recording of this album. But it's funny, I don't really listen to a lot of Van Morrison, but YouTube will just suggest random videos for you, and one of the videos was this video of Robbie Robertson and Martin Scorsese, probably around the time they did The Last Waltz, and they're drunk as hell, just partying, having a good time, and Robbie Robertson is like, I will play something for you, and it's the song Tubular Honey by Van Morrison. And like Robbie Robertson is like really getting into it. He's like smoking, he's like has his eyes closed, just really getting into the music, and Martin Scorsese is just like laughing. And I feel like I've been Robbie Robertson so many times where you go to play something that like really has like hit you, and you want to play it for someone that you know, and they just like don't get it as much as you do, or think, oh, like, why are we listening to this? So I was like, man, I haven't listened to that song forever. It's such a beautiful song. I've been kind of going down this Van Morrison trip lately, so had to get this. Such a great album, and plus it has Wild Night on it too, and I really love that. The last song, Moonshine Whiskey, definitely can hear the country influences on that song. But yeah, kind of Van Morrison pretending to be American on this record. And this one just came on the Warner Brothers label, the Palm Tree label. So yeah, that's it for all the stuff I bought myself. Next up, we have some stuff people have sent to me. This first round of records is another batch Christian over from CGC Vinyl Guy sent me. He has an awesome channel. I'll link it down below. Go check him out. But he sent me Stand Up by Jethro Tull. This originally came out in 1969, and this is a 1977 U.S. press. Great rock, folk, prog, I would say. Their second studio album, and it was the first album where Ian Anderson kind of had full control over the lyrics and the music. Yeah, this album's alright. I mean, I'm not the biggest prog head, but I do like it. I mean, the only other Jethro Tull I've really listened to is Aqualung. But yeah, I really dig it. This definitely makes me want to jump into some other Jethro Tull work. But yeah, this one's missing the stand-up pop-up thing, because in some of the albums it has this like pop-up of an illustration of like the band members that's kind of on the front cover here. But I think this one might have gotten torn away. But yeah, really excited to dig into Jethro Tull. And this one just came on the Chrysalis label. Next up, you guys know how much I love Eric Burdon. But this one, I don't think I've ever seen this Animals record before. This is Every One of Us by Eric Burdon and the Animals. This is an original 1968 U.S. press. Rock, blues. I would say Psych. This is probably the most Psych thing I've ever heard from the Animals. But their second of three albums that they released in America during 1968. I don't think this was released in the UK. But yeah, probably the most psychedelic Animals slash Eric Burdon thing I've heard. You can definitely hear like the influences of like Sgt. Pepper's a little bit. And the song Year of the Guru kind of has this weird like early rapping style vocal to it. It's very crazy and kind of ahead of its time. But I do really like this album. There's some of Animals albums from this period that I just don't really like. You can definitely hear how Eric Burdon was kind of trying to move away from it. You can hear a lot of sort of the soul funk influences that he would end up sort of cultivating, and you know, his solo stuff with War. So yeah, I very much like this album. And this came on the Golden Blue Swirl MGM label. Next up we have Homecoming by America. This is original 1972 US press on this awesome tri-fold gatefold. And I would describe this as soft rock folk. I kind of just wanted this because it had Ventura Highway on it, which I love that song. It's very, you know, indicative of that late 60s, early 70s sort of soft rock California sound. This was their second studio album. I mean, out of America's discography, I think this and their first album are probably the only ones I really care for. So yeah, excited to have more America in the collection. I do have like a greatest hits thing from them, but it's really rough, and I just need to invest in their actual albums. This one just came on the Warner Brothers Puke Green label, as I like to call it. Next up, one that I've been on the lookout for forever, but they're always just so beat up. This is Surrealistic Pillow by Jefferson Airplane. Originally came out in 1967. This is a 1969 US press. Rock, psych, folk, I would say. Their second album and their first album with Grace Slick and drummer Spencer Dryden. I mean, one of the most influential records when you think of, you know, the 60s psych rock San Francisco scene. Just a game-changing album, and this album has probably two of their most well-known songs, White Rabbit and Somebody to Love. Just really shows Grace Slick's amazing singing skills. Just one of those albums that I think everyone should have in their collection, whether or not you're really into psych rock. Just a game-changing record in general. And this one just came on the orange RCA Victor label. And this next batch of records, so when I uploaded my record room tour, I got a message from Christina, aka the Vinyl Guru, on Instagram, because I kind of mentioned how I have these cassettes but don't really listen to them. And she was like, hey, I'm kind of getting into cassettes. They're kind of like my new thing now. So she offered to do a trade. So I sent her all of my cassettes, and now they have a lovely home where they'll be loved and listened to, which I'm so thankful for. And these are the records she sent me as a trade. First up, we got Incarnate by The Obsessed. Originally came out in 1999. This is a 2020 US press. I've described them as like hard rock, heavy metal, doom metal. I have never heard of The Obsessed before, so I was excited to get introduced to them. This is a comp of like rare recordings and live performances they did. This was a Record Store Day release that was remastered and had some extra tracks on it. But I really dig them. They kind of remind me of like kind of stoner rock, Caius meets like early metal, Pentagram, Venom, sort of style, early heavy metal, hard rock. But I really like them. They're totally up my lane when it comes to sort of hard rock, heavy metal. But yeah, if you're not familiar with them and you're into those genres, check them out. And this one came on a cool deep red with like these black splatter marble thing going on. Next up, another group I've never heard of before. This is their Ultimate Collection by Hooverphonic. This originally came out in 2018 as like a 40 track CD. This is a 2021 Netherlands press of some highlights from that CD. But I've described them as like electronic, dream pop, alt rock. They kind of remind me a lot of like Portishead, but sort of a greatest hits comp material released from 2000 to 2016. From what I did, from the research I did, they're a Belgian band that formed in 1995 and are still releasing stuff. I don't know if it's like my favorite style of music, but it's an interesting blend of all of those genres, and I kind of want to dive into more of their work, or let me know some other bands that kind of remind you of them if you're into this band. I'm kind of interested in this whole sort of mesh of like electronic pop, but like alternative style. I don't know. Give me some ideas of some other bands or groups or artists that you're interested in if you're familiar with this band. And this one just came on Capitol label? Oh, Columbia custom label. And then lastly, we have Toin Cost. Oh my god. Toin Cost by the Tone Benders. That is a tongue twister. This is an original 1988 US press. I would describe this as rock, garage, alternative. When I posted this on my Instagram story, someone was like, how would you describe their music? And the best way I could describe it is like the Romantics meets the Cramps. Yeah, this was their first EP and the only two they released. They released another one in 1990 and they haven't released anything since, so I'm assuming they broke up since then. But yeah, I really dig this. I really dig their sound. Very reminiscent of something like Reverend Horton Heat, but a little bit more on like the pop rock side than like the psychobilly rockabilly side, but they still have like little tinges of that. I don't know, I really dig them and wish they kind of released a full album to really expand on that sound. And then this one just came on a Head Flies custom label. Oh, and she did send me, I can't believe I forgot to pick this, but this Nick Cave, where is it? This Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds live in Germany, 1996. This is a bootleg of that show. This isn't the greatest recording. This definitely sounds like a pocket recording. But this does have his version of the singer on it. Not a live version, but just a version that came, that they just ripped from the album. But I've been going through a real Nick Cave phase right now. I've been really loving that song, The Singer. I've been like playing it hundreds of thousands of times over and over and over until the point where I get like tired of it. But I still am not tired of it. It just has such a great like guitar groove to it. But he does awesome versions of like the Weeping Song, Mercy Seat, Jack the Ripper, Lover Man. Been really loving that song too. Your Funeral, My Trial, just really great Nick Cave content. But yeah, I'll link Christina's channel down below. If for some reason you don't know her, I think she was one of the first women I saw do videos in the vinyl community, and she was a major influence on me wanting to start my own channel. So it's been cool getting to like correspond with someone who was a major influence to me and whose channel and just as a person I really highly respect. So love you, Christina. I'll link her channel down below if you don't know her. But yeah, that was all the records I have gotten and listened to these last 2 weeks. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.